Thank you so much. So I was telling you guys a little bit about my upbringing, my religious upbringing. I was talking, the board took us out for dinner last night, and it was really great to meet everyone, and thanks for making us feel so welcome and special. And we were talking about Judaism, and I was saying my family's level of observance was what I would call medium Jew. So, you know, we followed a lot of the dietary laws, and we kept all the festivals and rituals and customs, and we, you know, had Friday night dinners, and we went to synagogue every week, but still like just medium level of observance, because there's very extreme levels of observance of the laws. But the synagogue that we went to every week was that orthodox, much more, you know, strict kind of Judaism. For instance, you know, on the Sabbath, you're not allowed to touch electricity for 25 hours. You're not allowed to drive. So we would drive to synagogue, but we would park around the corner. So no one could see that we drove. And I was like, who are we fooling? If he can see everything. Who's it for? But anyway, so the synagogue that we went to was that kind of strict orthodox. And so we had gender segregation. So the women would sit upstairs and the men would sit downstairs. And as a woman, you're not allowed to participate in leading the service. You are not allowed to lead the congregation as a solo voice. You're not allowed to read from the Torah, from the Old Testament scrolls, which is what the whole service revolves around. I would watch my father and my brother participate in this honor. Part of the reason is that a woman's voice in Orthodox Judaism is not allowed to be heard unaccompanied, because it's too arousing, which is true. So if anyone feels that they are overcome at any point this morning, we have exits. I noticed Eric. Yeah, Eric. Oh, Eric. So I wasn't allowed to sing unaccompanied, even if you had, you know, the best voice in the room. And in Orthodox Judaism, men and women aren't allowed to touch unless they're married, and even then, not really in public. And, you know, so performing in my father's Jewish wedding band, you know, we couldn't do mixed dancing. There was usually like a secret code where the religious people would leave by 9 o'clock so that the mixed dancing and the female singing could start. And the day school that I went to was a Jewish day school, and it was more in line with the medium level of observance that I kept at home. But even there we were given, you know, ideas about what it meant to be a woman in Judaism. For instance, there was a prayer that we said every morning since primary school, so I said this since I was 10 years old. There was a call and response between the boys and the girls, and it was quite long, but one section of it required the boys to say in Hebrew, "Dear God, thank you for not making me a woman." And we would answer back, "Dear God, thank you for making me what I am." And this was explained away to me by women in my community, that it doesn't mean that we're less, you know, it just means that we're different. But different is still defined, and I refuse to be defined by my gender. And what I'm going to do for you today is I'm going to sing a Hebrew song that my father sings at during the service when they return the Testament scrolls, the Old Testament scrolls, to the heart of the synagogue. He sings this song as they close the curtain. So I'm going to perform that for you today, and then I'm going to play Eve, which is my song that talks about the way that my tradition and the other Abrahamic traditions talk about women and women's roles. So this first song is called Etz Chaim. את חיים היא ומחזיקים בו ותומתך מהו שם דרכנו ותומתך שלום השיבנו אדוני אליך בנו שובה קדש ימינו כקדם קדש ימינו כקדם קדש ימינו כקדם tells me I was made for and from man, and I must do for him everything that I can. I must surrender to his will. I must submit. I can't make the household decisions 'cause I am unfit. It tells me my place with everlasting grace. The Bible tells me I must be silent. You can't hear my voice. My role has been divinely defined, and I have no other choice. I may not be a teacher of man. I must cover up my shame. These are the laws of the one who in vain I cannot name. It tells me my place with everlasting grace. In my punishment for wanting to learn is a painful birth from which I may not return. The Bible tells me that I am unclean. I am impure. You cannot touch me. It has nothing to do with where I've been. It is part of who I am. It is because I corrupt man. I was asking for it just by being a woman. He tells me my place with everlasting grace. And my punishment for wanting to learn surrender to his will. I must submit, I can't make the household decisions, 'cause I am unfit. He tells me my place with everlasting grace. Yeah, he tells me my place with everlasting grace. Thank you. I went for a road trip across the west coast of Australia, and I live in Melbourne, which is southeast, and so I flew cross country, which is pretty much LA, New York distance, and I got to Perth, and I drove 22 hours north to visit the stromatolites. Is anyone familiar with the stromatolites? Oh, cool, a couple of people. So the stromatolites were the earliest life form on our planet. And they were a cyanobacteria that lived in the ocean, and they would wash up on the shore and they would collect, and they would group together, and they would form, over thousands and thousands of years of collecting, they would form these rock-like structures. So they look like rocks, but they're actually alive. And they had this chemical reaction that would release oxygen. And so it's these rocks, these stromatolites, that are responsible for the oxygenation of the early Earth. And they exist today in a modern form in 2 places in the world, in South America, and they exist in the west coast of Australia. And so I was so excited to go and see these amazing creatures. And as I said, I drove 22 hours north to get to Shark Bay, Western Australia. And I was pretty delirious by the end of my drive, and I pulled up on the to close to the pier, and I walked out over the pier, and I looked down, and they really do look just like rocks. But if you look for long enough, you'll see a bubble of oxygen come out, and that is super cool. And there was a father and son in front of me, and he was explaining to his little boy about this whole all about these creatures and the whole cycle, and the kid was just so full of wonder, and I just had this, I'll call it a transcendent experience, partly because of how beautiful the moment was and partly from my drive. But I felt really overcome with this deep sense of gratitude. I felt really grateful for my life and for the capacity that we have for that depth of emotion and those kinds of experiences. And I felt grateful to scientists, to people who have dedicated their lives to growing the body of knowledge so that I can look at what my brain says, this is a rock, but know that it's so much more, and in some layman's way understand its relevance to the history of life on Earth and its relevance to my own existence. And I felt grateful to the rocks. And I hope that no one could hear me, and I bent down and I whispered, "Thank you, rocks." I think sometimes people think that, if you don't believe in a master plan, that you can't have gratitude or appreciation for what you have, and that's not true. And I think even coming from a place of discontent, I see the world around me, and I find problems. We find things that we're dissatisfied with, and things that we're angry about, and things that we believe strongly need to change. But that doesn't mean that we're not grateful for what we have. And this song is called Gratitude. I wrote this on the drive home while paying very close attention to the road, just in my head. Usually you need an instrument, but this one just came, like the words and the melodies. And this is Gratitude. Life can be stay on your guard and protect the good stuff. And sometimes we all feel like we've had enough. Don't wanna spend my short time feeling down. Go through my days getting used to a frown. So I will express my anger where credit is due, but it won't take away from my gratitude. There's nowhere to hide when you live in a cage. You feel young inside, but on the outside you age. Everyone lied when they told you there's the next stage. 'Cause one day my memories will all be gone. Not a single one of all who I love will go on. And I'm afraid of the end. Yeah, I don't want it all to, but it won't take away from my gratitude. When the world is on fire, down come the rain. It's truth and desire help us overcome our pain. When we take it higher, only mystery remains. And it's almost too good to be real. While it's hard to define the transcendence we feel, don't believe in our great power to say thank you to, but it won't take away from my gratitude. And after the rain has washed everything away, well, here comes the rainbow to brighten up your day. To contrast with the gray, confusion runs deep, and it's hard to know what's right. Sometimes you can't sleep, you get lonely at night, but you decide what you keep. In the morning brings a new light. I'd rather find out what's real than deny the truth. May be hard, but it's better than living a lie. So before disaster strikes and everything I built comes unglued, I'll be reveling and dancing in my gratitude. Thank you. I'd like to invite Rob back up, and we're going to play, this is a really new song. So like I said, when I write songs, you know, I'm trying to get something off my chest, or I'm trying to make an argument or a point or kind of question something. And this time I was sitting around in my house and I was thinking, what would I want to hear? If someone was, you know, if I could write something that's like a message to myself, like what do I need to hear right now? And this is what I came up with, and this song is called Okay by Myself. Tell me it's alright. Don't wanna feel lonely when I'm alone in the middle of the night. Yeah, I wanna stay motivated and happy, even when I'm stressed. I wanna be the same person when life is at its worst, when it's at its best. And I want to be okay by myself. Running through my mind, I don't wanna spend my life searching for a piece that I can't find, when everything I need to be happy I carry in myself. Yeah, I know that it's all up to me, I can't find it in anybody else. And I want to be okay by myself. We're going to play a few more new songs for you. This is written...